Shared space roads, dangerous and discriminatory. Shared space takes away control crossings, which blind people use to cross the road. Courtesy crossings are used instead, which have no controls to help a blind person cross the road. Drivers are under no obligation to stop. Right, so the policeman waved us on, so they've just waved us. Again, you wouldn't know if that communication was happening because you can't see him. Yeah. Shared space also takes the curbs away, or uses very low curbs which are not safe for blind people to independently navigate the town centres. Take away the curb and you take away their freedom. Increasingly, reports from across the UK were showing that blind and disabled people were simply not being listened to during consultations for new schemes, and they were literally being designed out at the high street. In Kirkintilloch, in Cirencester, in Norwich, in Oxford, in Hackbridge, in Leicester, in Bath, in Wakefield, in Reading, in Coventry, in Tolworth Greenway, in Swindon, in Southend-on-Sea, in Kinross, in Poynton, in Blackpool, in Warwick, in Lewes, in Preston, in Bexleyheath, in Gloucester, in Grimsby and in Leek. Problems with shared space in Kirkintilloch. Morning, Gillian.
Morning.
I saw you on BBC Scotland about the problems that Kirkintilloch were going to face if they took the traffic lights out. Now they've gone. What's happened?
Oh, it's like a ghost town because we're all scared to go down because there aren't any traffic lights to safely cross the road.
Control crossings being removed in the main high street, resulting in people being excluded. The curbs have all but disappeared, with 60% of the high street with 20mm curbs now, which are not high enough for blind people to navigate independently and safely. The paving materials used are hazardous. They have created trip hazards and problems for wheelchair users all along the high street. Well, the little stones, aren't they? What are the problem with these?
Make your wheels jerk because they're not smooth enough. They're quite rough and people trip over them. I've seen people tripping and nearly falling on them.
The buses are having problems. No lay-bys, leading to congestion. The junction is just too narrow, causing chaos at the junction. The bollards are continually being hit, leading to temporary barriers being put up. Parking on pavements is happening up and down the high street, as there are no loading bays. Bricks have been put in the carriageway all along the high street, creating serious problems for the taxi drivers. Horrific trip accidents have been occurring in schemes where low invisible curbs have been included in the design, including Grimsby, Pontypridd, Hereford, Hanley, Cheltenham, Cirencester. Schemes are U-turning across the UK, with crossings going back into the high street. In Grimsby, in Corby, in Blackpool, in Warwick, in Hackbridge, in Coventry, in Kinross, in Julian Road in Bath, in Dunstable, and they have agreed to put back control crossings back into Tolworth Greenway, and more changes to the cab stand junction in Portishead. Research has also shown that misinformation has been promoted about shared space road design. Manual for Streets 2 stated that Julian Road in Bath scheme had 9 serious accidents, including 1 death, 3 years before the scheme was implemented. However, there was only ever 1 serious accident during this period. The scheme was also used as best practice for road safety in the Civic Voice Street Design for All document that was published in 2014. However, it was actually ripped up in 2012 and replaced by zebra crossings. In August 2016, a national inquiry into shared space was launched by the Women and Equalities Committee. Evidence given on the 7th of December 2016 clearly indicated that shared space schemes were not inclusively designed.
I think one thing sort of in the review state is clear that actually if we look at evidence of whether those schemes have created inclusive environments, that evidence is very hard to find.
In Scotland, there is an ongoing petition to halt shared space. The Petitions Committee recommended a seminar was undertaken on shared space, which recommended that Scotland took a lead to develop inclusive design guidance, and that control crossings and curbs are not optional.
A woman who is blind has won a landmark ruling against the height of new roadside curbs in Lisburn. Joanna Toner began legal proceedings fearing that blind and partially sighted people were in danger of being hit by traffic because the curbs were lowered. A judge at the High Court ruled that Lisburn and Castlereagh City Council had failed to ensure equality for disabled people in the multi-million-pound regeneration scheme. Council representatives are now expected to ensure the process is subjected to a full equality impact assessment.
I'm absolutely delighted because the implications for other disabled people and other shared schemes across the whole country is going to be immense, and that's something that we've definitely been fighting for a long time. It's just dangerous to remove the curbs and to let blind and partially sighted people mix with traffic.
A partially sighted pensioner in Coventry was killed in shared space in 2012. The scheme was said to have been so confusing, an accident was bound to have happened. Other vulnerable people have been killed in shared space. 3-year-old Clinton Pringle was killed in Jersey in 2016 by a careless driver on shared space. The judge criticised the road layout in the case, with changes to the road layout recommended in the inquest into Clinton Pringle's death. Lord Chris Holmes blogged about shared space in 2015 and questioned what would happen if tankers and toddlers shared the same space on the road. In the same year, he called for shared space to be halted. Guide dogs have also asked for shared space to be halted, as well as the RNIB. The National Federation of the Blind of the UK has asked several times for schemes to be halted. In December 2013, Baroness Kramer, the former Minister of Transport, adopted the National Federation of the Blind of the UK's guidance on access for town centres for blind people, which clearly stated that curbs and control crossings were needed for people in shared space. However, many people ignored the advice and carried on implementing schemes. Meetings were held with the former Minister for Disabled Persons, Mark Harper, with the former Minister of Transport, Baroness Kramer, with Lord McAvoy. Events were attended in the House of Lords, and 6 petitions were handed in on the issue to number 10. In April of this year, the Women and Equalities Committee called for an immediate halt to shared space design, and this is how the news broke in Scotland.
They said all schemes must be accessible to everyone, and that means controlled crossings and pavement curbs, something we have been talking about for a long time. Now, this report is so strong that it cannot be ignored.
We will not be ignored. And we will not be ignored. And I will not be ignored. And the recommendations made in the Scottish seminar on shared space in the afternoon will not be ignored. And the recommendations made in the Women and Equalities report on shared space will not be ignored.
It is clear that shared space has not worked, as it excludes hundreds of people, not only just the blind and visually impaired, but hundreds of other disabled people. It is not fit for purpose, and we need to return to controlled crossings to bring back the people to the town where they know they can safely access the town centre.